Kim, we're going to be here with Boxing Bants, and it's great to have a catch up here with Eric, Lily White, Lightning Donovan. Eric, the last time I spoke to you was in February 2020, and you just won a fight in Devonish. And a lot has changed in that last year. It's been quite a year for you. But we take you back to that moment in time and the first change that happened. I remember speaking to you, and you were at the edge where you were like, right, well, if a big fight doesn't happen for me now, I might have to just stop and pack it in. And you were waiting for that opportunity, and that was the kind of the crossroads you were at. And you changed management with Mark Dunlop. Do you want to talk about that maybe a bit first?
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, I remember that conversation. I remember that interview. Actually, it was right after the fight I had with 𝐃𝐎𝐍𝐕𝐀𝐍 Reyes, and I stopped him in the 7th round of our fight, of an 8-round fight, and I was buzzing after it. I remember I was buzzing with the style of victory, but like I didn't think it was my best performance, but it was a very good performance, and I got him, stopped him, and he's never been stopped before. And remember afterwards thinking, like, I'm ready now. I'm ready now to step up to like a big level, a top level, because I think at that point that was my, I think that was my 12th fight, 12th win. I was 12-0 after that, and I just felt like I was coming up to 4 years as a professional fighter, 4 years, and I just said I need to step up now. I need to step up, and I suppose that's really what was going on for me at that time. I was just ready. I was basically just ready to step up. I didn't know what was going to happen in the subsequent weeks and months from that fight, but just circumstances. I suppose circumstances dictate, and the kind of messages that I was getting, the kind of realization of where I was going, didn't really it didn't ring home for me. It didn't what would you say, it didn't satisfy me. So I said, look, I got back into this boxing game because I had so many regrets, and I said, if I don't make a change now, I'll probably end up retiring eventually with the same regrets that I came back into boxing to rectify. So I said, look, going to have to make a decision here. I had a great career with Boxing Ireland Promotions, 4 years, Irish Celtic title, Irish title, fantastic, topped loads of shows around Ireland, created a bit of momentum, helped them, I suppose, with their stable, and helped them to kind of attract boxers, attract different guys to their stable, but I just felt that I was ready to go to a new level that they weren't at that time ready to take, or not so much ready. They were ready, but they just didn't have the resources and the capabilities at that time. So look, it wasn't personal; it was purely business driven and career driven. I like to put career driven and ambition before business. Like, even though professional boxing is a business, for me, it's always about fulfilling a dream and reaching my full potential. Like that means more to me than any money. Money is nice, don't get me wrong, but it's always about at the end of it all that I can look back and say, yeah, made the tough decisions, made the hard choices, and I'm very happy with how I finished up. That's it.
Mm. And when that transpired, then, like, you look at, let's just say, James Tennyson, who has been very slowly built, not slowly, but he's been built in a really nice way at the moment, and his risks that he's taken are kind of calculated. But at that point for you, you'd waited so long, it was kind of like you were ready to just take on any opportunity that was given to you, a bit like the Zelfa Barret. Zelfa Barret it was still a very, very winnable fight for you, and you really believed you were going to win, but also you were still moving up in weight, so there was still that risk there. Was that the one of first, or was it one of many offers that Mark had thrown your way?
Well, when I sat down to talk with Mark, the first thing Mark says to me, he says, look, Eric, I'd get you the big fights. There's absolutely no doubt about it. I'd get you the big fights, but it's up to you to win them. I can't win them for you. I can get you them, but you have to. And I said, well, look, Mark, you get me the fights and I'll win them myself. Don't worry about that. And so it was very quickly after we linked up together that the fight camp and all that was announced. And, you know, there was a couple of names Mark mentioned, potential opponents for me down the line. And then he came back to me with one because they were looking for an opponent for Zelfa Barret if I was interested. And yeah, I took a risk, but it was a calculated risk. A calculated risk in terms of, yeah, it was a step up, but it wasn't a real, like, you know, it's not like I'm stepping up 10 pound or anything. It's a 4 pound from featherweight to super featherweight. Yeah, he's bigger than me. He's more experienced than me. But you know what? I have a lot of experience too. And you know, if I can put in a good performance here, I could catch him out. You know, and I could win. And I believed that. I believed I would do it. And I just came unstuck. That's all. I ran out of ideas probably at the time, and I was probably boxing the same way for the whole fight instead of making a tactical change maybe midway through when I was so far ahead on points. So far ahead, I could have maybe just pulled the reins a little bit and learned how to maybe preserve energy for the final stretch. But you know what? Zelfa's been campaigning at that level for quite some time. I wasn't. It was my baptism, I suppose, into that kind of league, and I came up short. And I learned so much from that fight. So when I move on to my next fight in 4 weeks' time, I know that is going to stand to me massively.
How did you feel to weight? Like, what were the differences that you felt at the time compared to featherweight in terms of being with someone who's kind of European level at a bigger weight? How did you feel at it?
Well, during the fight, I felt good for a good while, but like I noticed I was exerting a lot of energy. I noticed that I come out of the blocks flying basically, you know, but that's the mentality I've had from the amateur days. You know, as an amateur, you're a 3-round fight. You want to win every round because you can't just say I'm going to win 2 rounds. You have to try and win every round to make it absolutely convincing. And that same kind of mentality has followed me into the pro game because I've been boxing competitively as an amateur from the age of 11 up to 31 before I turned pro. So it's 20 years of doing something the one way. And I didn't really know, like I said, I ran out of ideas. I now know from speaking to a lot of professional people, I'm working with professional people and people who have professional experience, the likes of Packie Collins. And I remember even talking with Andy Lee as well afterwards. And just the realization of you must manage the fight. You must manage the rounds. You must, you know, it's not a case of getting out there and just instinctively boxing where everything is kind of like, you know, 100 miles an hour. You have to go out there tactically aware, fully present, fully aware, but being able to kind of pull the reins every now and then. And when you not so much switch off, but just kind of bring the energy levels down where you're almost recharging, and then try not to ship any punishment during that time. So if you're trying to take your foot off the pedal for a little while, you have to make sure that you're being crafty and smart with it, that you're still nicking the round. You're avoiding trouble, or if he comes in on top of you, you're able to tie him up and not panic and run out. Anyway, look, I mean, it's all learning. It's just all learning, like, because everything I did was I always tried to miss every punch, make him miss with every punch, make him, you know, not allow him to land even one punch. And, you know, it's all amateurish stuff that I was doing for years and years. But now I have to realize that my arms are there for a reason. You know, they're for blocking, and they're for tying up, and they're for, like, you know, protecting me and stuff. You know, I don't have to maybe get out of the way of every single punch because you're not going to. And I just have a few more tools now in my toolbox, and that's the difference. And I would have never had them had it not been for that fight.
In football, they call it game management, or I suppose now it's fight management. Yeah. But it's very interesting. Yeah. I find it, like, people call it dark arts. I wouldn't call it that. It's how you take momentum out of things. But it's very interesting anyway when you hear boxers say it about Ben Davison always talks about Andre Ward doing it. It's really interesting. I find it. But
like when you win a round of boxing, you're going to win a round of boxing. If it's clear cut, you'll win the round 10-9. If you win the round of boxing and you put him on his backside or whatever, you're going to win it 10-8. But if you're clinical and you're very effective with your output and you're accurate and everything, and you land, say, 30 more punches than he does, 30 or 40 more punches than he does, it's still just a 10-9 round. But you're probably after using a lot of energy in that time. And for what? For one round. So what I've learned now is to be effective in different areas, in different spurts, not to be trying to be working like a mad thing for 3 minutes of every round. Being able to kind of avoid trouble, navigate my way around the ring generalship, use my experience, and when the opportunity is there, bam, 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 look good, make it clinical, catch the judge's eyes, and off you go again, recharging, almost like circling your prey again, watching out for what's coming, and then again, maybe 3 or 4 effective pieces of work in a round. If you're not taking any punishment, that can win the round for you. And then you're going back, you're sitting on your stool, and you've a round in the bank, and you haven't really worked, or you haven't really taken a big chunk out of your energy. That's fight management, in my opinion.
Yeah, or even things like Andre, I remember just because it just, I wasn't going to talk about this, but it just came into my head there. But like even like I was watching things like Andre Ward when he fought the 𝐃𝐎𝐍𝐕𝐀𝐍 first and second time, and any time 𝐃𝐎𝐍𝐕𝐀𝐍 was following up with anything more than a one punch, if it was a 2-punch combination, 3, Andre was coming under him and tying him. But every time he tied him up, he would, number one, he'd punch him in the kidney, not to hurt him, but just to let him know. And then you'd see him, he'd circle and make sure that he was back in the middle of the ring and then push him back out. Just little things like that. It was just, and he constantly did that through the whole fight. It was brilliant.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry. So after the fight, obviously, Eddie Hearn had spoken to you in the dressing room, and you were quite upset because even though people were saying during the week, "Oh, he's such a nice fella" and all that, you were like, "Yeah, but I'm here because I think I'm going to win." And afterwards, Eddie was very nice in saying he wants to give you another opportunity, and you had kind of paired up with Packie. Was that kind of you thinking, right, if I get another opportunity now, I need to adjust all these things like you were talking about?
Yeah, without a doubt. Like, you only know what you need or you only know what you're missing when you go into a fight of that magnitude and on that level, and you get exposed. And that's what happened. I was exposed. Zelfa he capitalized on my kind of inexperience, and he came on strong, and he was probably coming on very, very strong in these last final 7, 8, 9, 10. So yeah, he picked up he had to as well. So he was working on an energy that you only get when you're losing. Like, it's like something that your career is slipping away from you, the fight is slipping away from you, and you get this new energy that where it's like, look, man, you're going to lose this fight if you don't fucking do something. And so he was working off that, and he knew he had to do something. So he came out throwing the kitchen sink. And even though I was probably aware of that, like at the time, I was aware that I was winning. I was aware that I was comfortable and well ahead. I knew my energy levels were going down a fair bit, and I did not know what to do in that situation. And I remember my corner as well, like at the time, like we were very happy, but it was almost just like, come on, this is good stuff, same again, but we should have probably made a bit of allowance for, we probably never even thought about this in the lead up, we should have made a little bit of maybe a plan B or something like that to, like, right, listen, we need to kind of recharge now or something. Anyway, I didn't know, and I think at the time Ken was just very happy with how I was doing, because I was making him miss and hitting him. And the type of boxing you like to see from your boxer, you know, and I suppose like there didn't really seem like any reason for alarm or any reason for concern. And then Zelfa just came out with this absolute haymaker and landed it, you know, because I made him miss so many times, but he landed it, and I never really recovered after that first shot. So I probably could have got away, like all of my previous opponents, they probably wouldn't have been able to catch me with a punch like that. You know, so I could have let my guard down or stuck my chin up or took my eye off the ball against my 12 previous opponents, and I probably would have got away with it. But when you step up to the level of Zelfa Barret, then you know you're in a different league, and if you make a mistake, you're going to get punished. And that was it, and I got punished. And then in retrospect, looking back on the fight, because you have to look back on your fight, you have to look back at the areas of training camp, you have to look back at what am I learning this game? Am I learning about boxing? I wasn't learning. Like, I'm not learning about, I'm not learning the game. You know, I'm not learning how to do, like what I'm doing is everything that I've done before in the past. My amateur class, my amateur fundamentals, you know, so that's what I was doing, just at a higher rate, a higher tempo. But I wasn't learning about professional boxing. And we put in some camp, me and Kenneth, we worked so hard, sparring partners, the rounds upon rounds upon rounds. But there was something that we didn't have. I didn't have, Kenneth didn't have. And that was professional experience, how to manage a fight like this. So that's it. You don't realize you need it until it happens. And then you're right about the Eddie Hearn and the opportunities that will, you know, having another or getting another opportunity. Eddie promised me a comeback fight. I don't believe there's any reason. Well, I don't see any reason not to believe him around that. I think just everything has to be right. And so I said, right, if I'm going to go into this level again, I'd be a fool not to make the adjustments that I need. You know, like, don't get me wrong. What Ken has done for me has been absolutely amazing. But when me and Ken linked up, I thought I was only going to go as far as the Irish title. And I thought I'd be grand. Irish title fight, I get that. And it'll probably be the end of my career. But when I won the Irish title, then I was like, come on. You know, maybe there's some more in me, you know. And then when I made the change to Mark and I got the fight, then I realized, hey, listen, I'm at a very high level now. And if I want to stay here and if I want to be as successful here, I'm going to have to make some adjustments. And that was it. And I had to make them.
What made you narrow it down to Packie? It was just purely, was it a no-brainer in terms of, right, with this guy, it has to be him? Or did you speak to anyone else?
Well, we used to go over to Ken, or me and Ken used to go over to Packie's gym at Goodlaw for sparring. He used to spar with Steve Ormond, he used to spar with Niall O'Connor, Ray Moylett, Jesus Ariujo, and go over there and spar all these guys. And what I liked about Packie was his coaching of his fighters throughout the sparring, throughout every round, guiding them along, you know. And so I sat down with Packie because I knew him, and he's been nice to me anytime in the gym, and he's always invited us over. He's always welcomed us when we went over there. So and then he's been at the highest level with Spike and with Steve Ormond, and he's worked, you know, he's been around his brother, and he's been around, you know, even from his work with Kevin McBride and everything. So he's been around the business end of boxing for a long, long time. And I just felt like he had a lot of experience. And because I knew him, and because I felt comfortable over there, and because he had a gym and a stable, and a gym where this was another big factor. He had a gym where there's a load of Irish fighters who I'm really friendly with and who I get on well with. And when I was training with Ken, we were working in the Ultimate Fitness gym in Ballymount. And these guys are brilliant. They've been brilliant for me and for Ken, and they're great supporters of me, and I still represent them. I still have them on my shirts as well, because they went above and beyond for me to accommodate me in any way, shape or form. But it is a fitness gym. It is a commercial gym. It's not a boxing club. It's not a, even though they do lots of different things, they're mixed martial arts. There were some brilliant coaches there, jiu-jitsu coaches, MMA coaches, boxing coaches with Kenneth. There was no real, there wasn't an environment of fighters, or, I wasn't surrounded by fighters, ambitious fighters on a daily basis. So I felt that Celtic Warriors had that. And so that was another big factor. And I sat down and had a chat with Packie before I made any decisions. And what I liked what he had to say. And first of all, I asked him to critique my performance against Barret. And I asked him, how does he think I could improve? And what does he think I should do or could do in different circumstances? And everything he said made so much sense. And so it was kind of like, it just kind of naturally progressed from there.
Mm. It's very interesting you said that about the stable, because even though you were part of a big amateur setup in terms of a lot of fighters at a very high level fighting together, and I think that's something that some pros don't find it essential, but you don't realize till you're in that environment back again. Like, I've heard some fighters telling me in Pete's gym who were on their own, and I went into Peter Taylor's gym, and it's this thing of like Gary Cully and Tyrone McCullough, like constantly trying to beat each other in running times where they never had that before, or sparring. Everyone's such great shape, and if you aren't ready or you've not taken care of yourself, if you've had a few drinks the night before, like you're gonna pay for it, So I think it's maybe, would you say it's kind of keeping you on your toes as well?
Yeah, like you're surrounded by a lot of fighters, and even when you haven't got a fight coming up, you're getting somebody else ready to get for their fight, and you're sparring, and you're always kept busy, where before it was the only time I started sparring was when I had a fight. But now I'm always working. I'm always keeping that engine running, and even when I'm not working on a fight or not training for a fight, I'm learning the game, learning how to adapt to different situations, different fighters. Like even this morning, I had 6 rounds this morning, and I felt really, really happy afterwards. Like, it's like, wow, I was able to implement what we've been working on, what Packie wanted me to try, and I implemented it and executed it. And when you see that, it's brilliant. Where before I was just getting into the ring and just trying to win every round of sparring without actually thinking what I'm doing, what I'm not doing. There was no thought process really behind it. And that's it. Like, people might think it's a small thing, but maybe it is a small thing, but it's a massive thing. It's a massive thing. And the gym environment as well, been around fighters most of my life. You're right. I was around the Irish team, the high performance team, and then suddenly for 3 or 4 years, I was like a lone ranger, going from gym to gym, sparring different people, and everyone in the Ultimate Fitness gym were very friendly to me and really helpful, in every way. But it still wasn't that boxing team element, and I feel like I have that now in Celtic Warriors.
Mm. So since that fight, then you've had one fight, and obviously you were going to have a fight not so long ago, and the opponent had to pull it last minute. Although you did get a haircut at that, which I'm quite jealous of, but still, ultimately the goal was obviously from now to aim for one of the European belts. I imagine that's what your ambition was. Now, there was talk of you going back down to featherweight, but was it because of the Zelfa Barret fight you were kind of put into the super featherweight rankings with European boxing and governing body, and this opportunity came up? Is that kind of how it happened?
That was it, really. What do you call it? the rankings after my Zelfa Barret fight, they ranked me as super featherweight, and I was going to go back down to featherweight. But then on the final day of 2020, and 2020 was, you know, for a lot of people, it was a hard year, like, you know, and it'll always be planted in the memory for years and years to come. We'll never forget that year, you know. And then on the final day, the 31st of December, I get an email from the Boxing Union of Ireland to say I'm mandatory challenger for the European Union title. And I was just like, oh, what great news to get on such the last day of a horrific year. So then the ball's in my court. You know, I have the decision. Do I want to take this fight, or do I want to just reject it and say, no, thanks very much, I'm going to go back to featherweight? So I had a look at who I was mandatory against, and it was a guy called 𝐂𝐻𝐈𝐿 from Malta, Maltese fighter who beat Alfano in December. And I said, you know what, I can beat him. I've got his number, you know, and this is a chance to become a European champion. And, you know, I can then maybe come back to featherweight, you know, we can, you know. And that was it. It was a calculated decision, calculated kind of, you know, it's always a risk sticking around at a weight division above of a weight division that I can make. So, but it's calculated, you know, it's risk reward. And I just said, hey, you don't want to be turning down opportunities. Same way I didn't want to turn down the Zelfa Barret opportunity, top 15 world ranking. You know, sometimes you just have to take a chance and believe in yourself and train hard and give it a shot and see what happens. And that was it. So I said, you know what, I'm going to go for this. And then subsequently, in the subsequent weeks after, I got news that Lemieux failed a drug test, you know. So I don't know what he was on or what he's done, but he failed a doping test anyway. He got a doping test after that fight, and he came back positive for whatever, I don't know. And so he was stripped of the title. And now Alfano, who he beat, has been reinstated as a challenger, and I'm a challenger, and we're both challengers now for the vacant belt. And that's it. And I still am, like, I made my decision that I'm going to fight for this belt, whether it was Lemieux or Alfano, whatever. It doesn't really change anything for me. I've made the decision and I've started working for that, and I have been working for it for the last couple of months.
So some credible names have won that belt. You know, Paulie Malignaggi, Otto Wallin is another one who had that very good fight with Tyson Fury. So for you, in your mind, you probably haven't obviously looked past this belt, you know. But have you thought about, when you win it, what path you're going to go down, stay a super featherweight, maybe possibly use it in some other way of going back down?
Yeah, I probably will come back to featherweight, I think. You know, this, like I said, like, I'm a featherweight fighter. I make the featherweight division, so why not? But, you know, my plan is to win this belt, you know, and please God, we get the job done and we win this belt, and it will be lovely. It'll be a lovely prize and a lovely achievement to think that after being retired for 3 years and after going through everything that I've come through in my life, a lot of adversity and dealing with all of the setbacks and the trouble that I found myself in, you know, internally, like, you know, to just change my whole life around and to come back into the professional boxing and win Celtic title, Irish title, and now a European Union title. That would be a dream. It really would be a dream. And it would send out a message that, like, you know, so look, I already have to pinch myself anyway. So I do pinch myself when I'm training for these fights. I'm 35 going on 36 years old. I'm training. I'm still loving the game. And I'm just thinking, wow, in life, we try to, we try to live an extraordinary life. We want to experience amazing nights, amazing feelings, and this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm doing right now. So it's fantastic, man. It really is, and I don't want to look past it, no. But I do believe that winning this title will open many more doors for me, and there will be many more opportunities after that, without a doubt.
It's good to hear, and looking forward to obviously watching it. And it's nice to see that, you know, someone is going to be getting out in a very high level fight as well, because obviously with restrictions, you just never know. Like the Brussels card there and everything, you just never know. So it's nice to see someone's progressing and getting good opportunities during this time. So yeah, Eric, thanks very much for your time. I really appreciate it. It's always good to catch up, and I've really enjoyed it. And also appreciate you taking time out of your day to do an interview with me.
It's a pleasure, Kieran. Appreciate your support and the work that you do with Boxing Bants. It's great for Irish boxing. Keep it up. Best of luck. And hopefully in another few weeks we'll be able to have a chat, and I'll be the European Union champion then. And
we'll be talking about you, who you're fighting on Matchroom. That's what we'll be talking about.
Please God, fingers crossed.
All right, thanks very much, Eric.
Thanks, Kieran. Thanks, man. Yeah.